As you probably know, the Triumph Tiger Sport 660 is the sport touring counterpart to the Trident 660, the Roadster. And like I already told you in a video, this one got a proper upgrade for 2026 in terms of engine performance, bringing it up to 95 horsepower. All of those engine changes are also making their way onto the Tiger Sport 660 for this year. And what makes this bike even more tour-friendly than before, you'll find out after the intro. A very warm welcome to 1000 PS TV. As already announced, the heart of the Tiger Sport 660 update is, of course, the power increase to 95 horsepower. That's 14 horsepower more than the previous model had, and torque has grown to 68 Newton meters, 4 Newton meters more than before. It now shares the engine with the Trident 660 and the Daytona 660. Mechanically, these engines are pretty much identical. It's just the mapping that's a bit different electronically. And according to the manufacturer, we've got the advantage that across the entire rev range, we supposedly always have 80% of the maximum torque of 68 Newton meters on tap. Which basically means that whenever you twist the throttle, you'll be pushed along with at least 55 Newton meters, which is pretty decent. Now, as for peak power, I'd say it's not necessarily a reason to sell your old Tiger Sport 660 and switch to the new model, because in practice you ride a sport tourer mostly in the mid-range revs anyway. So most of the time today, I'd say I was riding between 6,000 and 8,000 revs. And I think the performance difference compared to the previous model isn't massive there. It's only at really high revs, around 10,000, that you do notice this bike revs higher and comes out of corners more eagerly. But you rarely ride like that when you're touring. Still, it's obviously great to have 95 horsepower, so the maximum in the A2 class that can be restricted, because you're often riding with a passenger and luggage as well. And if you're heading up a steep mountain road, then of course you're happy to have the maximum engine performance available. Right, the windscreen that's height adjustable by 8 centimeters, that isn't new. And the combined LCD TFT instrument is an old familiar one too, and it's had to take a lot of criticism in the forums along the lines of it not being quite up to date. But I have to say, I actually like the combo quite a lot. It suits the Tiger Sport 660 well, and it's really easy to read. So the speedo always lights up beautifully right in my line of sight. And all the other functions are shown clearly in the color display, so I've got absolutely no criticism there. And you've also got to say it's down to the price point of the bike as well. You can't always expect high tech. Somewhere you have to accept compromises, right? So this is the new drivetrain we already know from the Daytona 660. And the differences compared to the previous Tiger Sport 660 engine are 3 throttle bodies. Before, it was a single central one. That means from now on, each cylinder has its own throttle body, and that naturally improves performance and throttle response. On top of that, there's a large airbox. That also contributes to a better sound, of course, a revised cylinder head. And the cooling system has been reinforced too, because more power also produces more heat. And it's similar with the exhaust gases, because where more power comes out, more emissions come out as well. Which is why the exhaust system taken from the Daytona is fitted here too. Last but not least, the gearbox ratios have been completely revised. First gear is much longer because of the power increase. Gears 2 to 5 have been adjusted, and 6th is identical to the previous model again. But thanks to the higher maximum rev limit of 12,650 revs, you still get a bit more top speed out of the engine. Finally, there's a new slipper clutch with an assist function, so it's light to pull, and the WMTC consumption increases slightly to 4.9 liters per 100 kilometers. The Tiger Sport 660 now weighs 211 kilos with a full tank. And that's of course also because the tank has grown. We now have an 18.6 liter tank that's 1.4 liters more than it used to be. And the side fairings have been redesigned too. They're meant to offer better weather protection, which thankfully I can't really judge today because it's absolutely dream weather and bright sunshine. On top of that, you can see the integrated pannier mounts here. The bike comes at a purchase price of 9,895 euros in Germany and 10,695 euros in Austria, of course without the panniers. Optionally though, you can get the side cases, each of which fits a full face helmet, and also a top box with 49 liters, I think, where 2 helmets fit inside. By the way, you're looking at the blue model here with me, and you can also choose a silver bike and a white bike. On the Tiger Sport 660, we find the same frame modifications as on the Trident 660. Here as well, they had to create space in the frame for the triple throttle body assembly. And they actually managed to do it so that the frame hasn't become wider on the outside, but inside there's more room for the wider engine. That means the standover measurement compared to the previous model hasn't changed. We've got a seat height of 835 millimeters. Optionally, there's also a seat that's 25 millimeters lower, or a comfort seat. That one is neither higher nor lower, but it's better padded and finished more nicely, right? Lastly, a few words about the suspension components. As you can see here, they come from Showa. A big piston fork with 15 centimeters of travel, not adjustable. And at the rear, in the usual manner, just like on the previous model, we've got a Showa shock with a hand wheel for adjusting the spring preload. In general, you have to say that the 15 centimeters of travel on the Tiger Sport 660 feels noticeably different from the 12 or 13 centimeters on the Trident 660. The handling feels a bit more comfortable, better cushioned, but also not as precise, sporty, and sharp as on the Roadster. Still, it is a sport tourer, and that's meant to be focused on comfort, and this suspension really fulfills that purpose very well. Triumph also leaves nothing to chance with the braking system and uses a Nissan brake caliper at the front with braided steel lines. And the brake also has an adjustable lever. I have to say it's a really good compromise for all-round use on a sport tourer, not too grabby but not too soft either. You can still control it nicely in the rain without constantly triggering the ABS. It's just a shame that they've apparently skipped reach adjustment on the clutch lever, but that's maybe only a very small faux pas that you can definitely forgive. So I have to say, I'm very happy with the brakes and the conditions we've got today, even though we've been riding quite briskly at times and I can't find anything to complain about. Unlike the now two-piece seat on the Trident 660, they've stayed loyal to the one-piece design on the Tiger Sport 660. 835 millimeters seat height. In return, you've got passenger grab handles here, which you look for in vain on the Roadster version. And in terms of seating comfort, I have to say, with my 1.78 meters, the knee angle fits quite well. Taller riders might make the trip to an upholsterer to have 1 or 2 centimeters added. I think the seat padding is really successful, not too soft, not too hard. And I also think a passenger will be able to cope with longer distances quite well here. Overall then, for this money, a very balanced and well thought out sport tourer from Triumph. Not completely new, but already on board since the last model year, namely 2025, is the full arsenal of lean angle sensitive assistance systems. So we've got cornering ABS and a lean angle sensitive traction control system. The ABS can't be switched off. The legislator now only allows that on off-road capable bikes. The traction control can be deactivated if you want though. Also on board, and I just want to stress, this comes at the base price with no extra charge, a quick shifter with blipper function, which has been recalibrated for these revised gearbox ratios. And cruise control, which is of course very practical, especially on a touring bike where you might hop on the motorway and cover longer distances at a constant speed. And finally, in the cockpit, you also get smartphone connectivity as standard. So all of that at the base price is a pretty strong statement, and it could definitely make some of the competition tremble. To wrap up, maybe my overall thoughts. On the Tiger Sport 660, I think that this update with 95 horsepower is exactly what the bike was still missing. We're now in a performance class where honestly, you don't really need any more for riding on country roads. We know exactly that with 95 horsepower, you can have an insane amount of fun on the road, and you can also cover long distances comfortably. You can take a passenger without the bike feeling like it's being tortured. So everything you really need in everyday motorcycle touring life, the Tiger Sport 660 does really well. You don't have to do without the latest safety features in terms of assistance systems. So a really, really successful bike, and on top of that, with extremely reasonable service intervals and running costs, good weather protection, adjustable windscreen. So you can see I'm genuinely convinced by it, but I also really, really liked the Tiger Sport 800. You do have to say, you've got to think about how much budget you've got available yourself. Whether the 660 is enough for you or whether you go for the 800 probably mainly depends on what license class you have. Because as we all know, the 800 isn't suitable for the A2 license and the 660 is. Trying to find weaknesses on the Tiger 660, well, that's not so easy for me. Most likely the lack of or limited adjustment options on the suspension. At the very least, they could have given the rear shock rebound adjustment here too. And the 15 centimeters of travel is also set up relatively comfort oriented for my taste. That means if you really get hard on the brakes at the front, the rear wheel goes light and the rear ABS also occasionally kicks in. Yeah, where it probably isn't really necessary. That's simply down to the weight distribution and the longer suspension travel. Yeah, but those really are only small things. All in all, a really successful showing from the Tiger 660, which has genuinely benefited for the young, new model year. All in all, I have to say the Tiger Sport 660 is a really great, well-rounded overall package. Very comfortable to ride. Touring comfort is genuinely high. I've got everything on here that I actually need in terms of electronic assistance systems. I've got a height adjustable windscreen. I just think you don't really need to dig deep into your wallet and trawl through the accessories lists. Apart from the panniers, you've basically got everything here that you actually need for a lovely motorcycle trip. And the price is of course very attractive too, because we're at 9,895 euros in Germany and 10,695 euros in Austria. For that, you really get a lot of motorcycle. And from March, the Tiger Sport 660 will also be at dealers. What's great for a touring bike, of course, is the astonishing service interval of 16,000 kilometers, and that naturally brings maintenance costs down quite a lot. According to the manufacturer, it's apparently like this. They've supposedly run the numbers, and compared to competitor bikes, the Tiger Sport 660 is cheaper to keep by up to 50% or even up to 70%. Of course, everyone has to find that out in practice over the long term. I can only pass it on the way it was sold to us. All I can say is I had an insane amount of fun on the ride. It's a comfortable sport touring bike, and that basically brings me to the end of my short first look. Here at 1000 PS, we'll definitely have this bike in one or another comparison test as well, and then we can see how well the Tiger Sport 660 actually performs in the A2 class. All that's left for me is to say goodbye. Please leave me a like if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the 1000 PS channel if you haven't already done so, and I'm looking forward to the next time we're out and about together. See you soon.